Welcome to Leadership Unlocked, an interview-style podcast providing insights on how to lead people. Proudly brought to you by Human Interactions Australia. Welcome to Leadership Unlocked. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing David Hammon, who's the Group CEO of Hammon Holdings. Welcome, David.
Hi, Craig. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Let's hear a little bit about Hammon Holdings. I know the depth, but many people wouldn't. So let's...
So my family have run Scenic World up in the Blue Mountains for 78 years, I think, this year. So my grandfather started that in 1945. And yeah, so we're a third generation family business. My sister, Anthea, one of my four sisters, Anthea, she runs Scenic World. I look after the group, and in the group we have Bridgeclimb, and we're also cornerstone investors in Sydney Zoo out in Blacktown. That's sort of the condensed version of a very complex ecosystem.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one, right? Because it is a family business, and that's how I've known you for
a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So it's a big family, four sisters, as you say.
Yeah.
So how did you guys kind of land in your roles in these? And because Anthea's a very good operator up at Scenic World, I've spoken to her many times.
Yeah. Look, Anthea. Anthea did me a massive favour when I think I was about 16, and my dad desperately wanted me to be an engineer, and Anthea volunteered to be the engineer, which was great, which released me to go and do what I was interested in, which was economics. And so then I went to university and did an economics and commerce degree, right. And Anthea ended up with, I believe, first class honours in mechanical engineering. Yeah. So we ended up with, between the pair of us, quite a nice complementary skill set. One of my other sisters is Abby, who's in between me and Anthea. She's a marketer. Emily's a linguist. She's proficient in several different languages. And Lydia, the bookends of the family, same as me. She's a business person. So she helps manage people's self-managed super funds. And yeah, Anthea and I were the ones that we gravitated towards the business. Abby,
business, right?
Yeah, Abby.
Because you guys were joint CEOs for a while.
We were joint.
Saying that?
Yeah, correct. That's absolutely correct. Yeah, we were joint managing directors. So we, so Anthea was working there, and then I got married, moved to the mountains, and so then we both started working there. And we realised that after a little while that we had a very useful complementary skill set. So she could make the machines run all the time, and I could deal with the result of the machines running all the time. So between the pair of us, that set us on a path together, and off we went. So we succession planned our dad out of the business, and then Anthea and I took over, and then what we realised was that we were good at a couple of things, but we were not very good at a lot of other things. So we, really good day for us was when we figured out that what we needed to do was surround ourselves with all the people who were way better at marketing and HR and all those things that, we could do if we really had to, but we didn't really want to do. It wasn't our specialty.
And you'd been doing it because that's what family business does, right? So you've been doing it for some time. Yeah.
So we'd done that for a bit, Anthea and I, and we had a couple of managers, but then we built the team around us that effectively freed us up out of running all the day-to-day stuff of the business, and that allowed us to then work, like they say, we went from working in the business to working on the business, and that put us on the path. We accelerated away from there.
How long were you joint managing directors?
10 years.
Yeah, I thought so. It wasn't just a small period of time.
No, it was 10 years, yes. And in that time we rebuilt the Scenic Railway as well. So when we started that, I was 30 when we started that, and Anthea would have been 27. Yeah, right. So that's a pretty wild adventure to go on with your sister, rebuilding the steepest train in the world in Katoomba when you're 30 and 27. And we were kind of lucky in a way that we just sort of didn't know any better what we were getting ourselves into. That was a fabulous experience. And
you guys have never been shy. You've never been shy to step away from a challenge, is my take on you guys. And, we've spent plenty of FBA conferences together, but you've never been shy in taking on a challenge, I reckon.
No, like I said, we were probably braver than we thought we needed to be to go and rebuild that train. That was a pretty wild adventure.
It's a first class, well, I think it's world class. now. I think it's a world-class site to go and visit these days.
Yeah, we definitely worked really hard on that. So we did several things. There's one, we were very lucky that my dad had decided after my grandfather was, who's effectively started it, he was a product of the Depression, right? So everything was very shoestring budget, right? So my dad was kind of sick of that by the time he took over. Sure. So we were very lucky that he then decided, right, we're going to make this thing really good, right? We're going to unlock this thing's potential and make it the best it can be. And so he got this fabulous equipment from Switzerland. So then we just decided, right, well, we always just need to now have the best stuff that we can lay our hands on, the best people, the best staff, the best equipment. Yep. And when you do all of that, then ultimately what you're trying to do is provide people the best experience, because the best experience gives people the best memories. And that's really what we do every day, is that we're actually memory makers. And so we just facilitate, we just facilitate the bonding, emotional bonding of family and friends. And we help people have those memories together. When you realise that's what you're doing every day, then everything else drives you. Your decisions become much
easier, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. My kids were just there last week,
Excellent,
or the week before for school. And one of my daughters is slightly scared of heights. Had a ball. Had an absolute ball. I think we've taken it on before, so I was like, you'll be right, Mum.
No, look, that extra adrenaline, I just tell people that's called extra value. You just get value for money. Some people don't get that. Yeah.
My point being is that they brought away these great memories, yes, with their friends, but with each other, with the twins and so forth. So it's cool. So then you got that out of the business. Oh, sorry. You transitioned out of the business.
Sure.
How did that go? Because that can be a hurdle for many businesses.
It took a while. It took about, I think it probably took the better part of 3 years to get him out. There were a few sort of distinct markers, and Anthony and I were sort of doing quite well, and I remember we had a weekly meeting with Dad, and then he goes, I'm just going to leave you two now. I'm going to write a book about the history of Scenic World. And we're like, oh, okay, that's cool, Dad. And he's like, we'll see how long it goes before you need to come and ask me a question. And we were like, okay, cool.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Love it.
And I think he expected us back later that day, and it was 6 weeks before we asked him a question. And at that point, I think he knew he was happy he could trust us that we knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, he'd been turning up to the front door of Scenic World every day for 40 odd years at that point in time, right? So he doesn't know how to go and do something else. Yep. So it was about finding the things for him that he could go and do, so he could leave going, I'm going to do this now, not I'm not going to turn up there anymore, because
they talk about retiring to something, don't they?
Correct.
Not retiring from something.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what happened.
And you wrote the book.
He did write a history of all the coal mining at Scenic World. Yes.
Wow. Because that's where Granddad started, or your grandfather started, right? Was the coal mining and pulling out coal. So grandfather was actually a local entrepreneur, was an electrician, and was running a transport company at the time. So it was effectively a disused coal mine where they were just running the Scenic Railway on the weekends. Right.
So he took over the lease and started running it every day, and was famously quoted as saying, if we do all right, we'll make a tenner a week, back in the days of pounds. He ended up with the most visited privately owned tourist attraction in the country.
Nuts, isn't it?
Yeah. So pre-pandemic, we above 1.1 million people a year. So that's more than 3,500 people a day on average.
That's great, isn't it? That's just good. Amazing. And it is. I think if anything that COVID taught us, it's taught us that locally we have amazing stuff to visit and see. Amazing stuff, like world-class stuff.
Yeah.
And that valley is stunning, right?
Yeah. We're very lucky. The location's a bit of a fluke for Scenic World, to be honest. Like it's just because the coal seam was there, and there happened to be a natural, like what I call a fissure in the rock, which is like a big crack in the rock that they could build the train down to get to the coal seam. So it was very operational. They didn't foresee it. John Briddy North did not foresee it as a tourist operation. It was busy pulling coal out every day. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So you and Anthea then said, okay, well let's you focus on Scenic World. I'm going to go and handle the group with a view of expanding, is my understanding.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'd realised with my now ex-wife that what we were doing was, I was doing the same thing as my dad, which is that the school holidays is obviously the busy time when you're in tourism, right? So I was missing out on hanging out with my kids. So we swung the pendulum in the total opposite direction, and we had a sabbatical for a year in Spain.
Oh, nice.
From the middle of 16 to the middle of 2017. And just before I came back, the government put the tender process out for Bridgeclimb.
Yeah.
And Anthea basically said, well, you're not coming back here. I've given your desk away for a start. So I was like, okay, cool, thanks, sis.
I love her, but she's forthright.
Oh yeah. No, it's why we work well together.
That's right.
You don't have to sugarcoat things. So Anthea was fine. That was all good. She had Scenic World well and truly under control. And so the board of directors said, well, let's have a go at Bridgeclimb, because what we had experienced previously was that we have susceptible to bushfires and natural events up in the mountains.
Sure.
So if we can geographically diversify, then we'll be far more insulated as a group around stuff that can happen. Not foreseeing a giant like worldwide pandemic. More your localised palaver, right? Because we've been through, even in the short history at the time that Anthea and I were there, we've been through enough stuff that roughly every 5 to 7 years there's going to be some type of external shock to the system, be it bushfires, 9/11, not COVID but SARS, all that sort of stuff that happens that messes international travel around, volcanoes in Iceland, all these things mess it up a bit.
Sure.
And so we wanted to geographically diversify. So they said, you think you can be in charge of going and winning this? Oh yeah, okay. I've got nothing else to do, I suppose. So then that led us into the process of entering the Bridgeclimb bid, which was an initial requests, an expression of interest, and then an RFP that we had to do. So so we cleared the first stage. I think there were about 13 or 14 people in the first stage, and I think five people went into the 5 groups. It was a big coup,
I thought, for a privately owned family business to take this. I thought.
Yeah, we're a bit lucky, I think, in that because we were in the Blue Mountains, we fly a little bit under the radar because we're a private business and in the Blue Mountains, so we're not completely visible to everybody else. So as my chairman said to me during the process, he's like, if you win this will be the last time you ever get underestimated in your abilities. So so I think we were a little bit, not lucky, but I think we were a bit underestimated by some of the other competitors in the process.
Yeah. And so how if we look into the leadership of these businesses in the day-to-day, let's go back to you and Anthea running that Scenic World business. How did that work? Who was...
How did that work? It worked really, really well.
In your eyes?
Both. In both of our eyes. We understood that each person had their expertise. We never made a decision without consulting the other one. We would probably have been in each other's offices, 10 times a day. So, because you've got your leadership team around you, and, you can get the classic, if I don't get the answer I want from mum, I'll go ask dad. So, we made sure that, that sort of stuff didn't happen. It's two heads are better than one. And as I've spoken to a fair few other people in my time, and being a CEO can actually be very lonely and very difficult because you often don't have somebody else to talk to, and everybody expects you to have all the answers. So, because I'm there with my sister, we had each other, and so we could combine our forces and combine our brain power and and deal with it that way. So
I've seen that in a few businesses, like Newlon had, Greg and John were joint for at some point. They changed at some point as well, but at one point they were joint for a long time, actually. Even my wife Janelle and her brother Andrew are still running that family business together. So, and again, complementary skills. So you set up a leadership team. How did that come about? Tell us about.
Yeah, well, as we were saying, like my sister and I just realised there were lots of stuff that we weren't good at, and you need I once had it described to me as, well, you can have a bunch of general practitioners, like if you think about it in the medical profession.
Yeah.
You go to GP and he'll tell you, okay, blah, 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 blah. But as soon as something serious happens, they start sending you to specialists, right? And so what you need is a team of specialists rather than a team of GPs. Yeah. And so that's basically what we did. So we did that, and then we started getting we had an external chairman as well too. So basically.
Who was the board? Was it?
So the board was initially the family, and then we had an external chairman, and now we've got an external chairman and another non-executive director as well. Okay. Yeah. So we had a couple of those for a while, and that's been really good. So. Okay. That's sort of what we did.
And so that leadership team, that can get a little bit hairy sometimes as well. How did that go with, having robust meetings, having them on regular meetings with them? Was that something that you set up as well?
Yeah. So we had a weekly management meeing, and then Anthea and I would have a meeting with each manager once a week.
Right.
Wow. But mostly otherwise, they're just update meetings. Like we tended to let. I think we tend to let people, mostly just run their own sort of stuff. We weren't micromanaging people. You're paying these people, and you've hired them because they've got the skills. You don't need us there telling you how to do your job. You're there because you're better at it than me. Is always I often took the philosophy that it's my job to be the dumbest person sitting at the table. And once you start running that program, then you're normally pretty good. That's how you go. That's how you win Bridgeclimb, by making sure you're well and truly the dumbest person sitting at the table. Go and get everybody that's way smarter than you, and all you've got to do is go, we want to go over here, we need to win this thing. How are we going to do it? Right? Well, you're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And
And is it the same setup here at Bridgeclimb? What's the
Is
Deb still here?
Yeah, Deb's
still. Is Deb still here?
Different Deb.
A different Deb.
I don't know. Maybe. Hang on. We'll sort it out.
Yeah.
When we went into when we shut down the first time, then I had a group. I got a group had a group CFO, Deb Zimmer, and myself, and so we ran then Bridgeclimb together, because obviously I love being a joint CEO. It's my favourite thing, and so we did that, and then Deb, because obviously we didn't have so much work to do in the finance department anymore, so that sort of shrunk down. So Deb was able to be the CEO of here as well. So she's a group CFO and CEO of Bridgeclimb, which then freed me back up to the top again. Yeah.
And the leadership team set up similar here?
So the leadership team set up similar here. Slightly different to the skill set is different to the skill set that's required at Scenic World.
Okay.
Up there you need more engineering people and stuff like that, because you've got great big machines running around.
Sure.
Whereas here you need a lot less of that and more security and that sort of stuff, because you're effectively dealing with a very large critical piece of infrastructure.
It's a hell of a climb, isn't it?
Yeah, I've done it a few times now, obviously. It's not. I think it's not too bad. We've obviously got trained, by my mum walking us up out of the valley, up at Scenic World, so we're pretty used to the 900 and something steps of
stairs.
And well and truly, I've no dramas with heights. I remember even as a small kid. So to get away from my sisters, I would go to work with Dad, and I remember on the old Skyway, one day Dad going, we're going to grease the ropes this morning. It must have been the school holidays, which is happened every Thursday morning or something. And so there was a little platform that sat up on the very top of the Skyway, And so this is like in the mid-'80s when, work health safety is not
exist.
quite what, well, it sort of
maybe
existed.
existed.
And so I was too small to have any of the harnesses on me. So Dad just goes, okay, well, you see this yellow line here at the end, David, of this little platform? I'm like, yeah. He's like, don't step past that once you go out there. And so there I am out in the middle of the valley with I'm not going anywhere,
Sure.
But yeah, you're standing there with the ropes about belly button height and you're just like floating out in the middle of the valley. And I'm pretty sure my sister Anthea did the same sort of thing. And so she's been up on the top of the Skyway a few times. And when they redid the cabin, that's when my sister made sure that the roof and everything was strong enough to take the people. And that's how come now we've got the Beyond Skyway up there, which is the experience where you get to go and sit up on top of the Skyway cabin out in the middle of the valley, which is super cool, which I'm yet to do annoyingly because every time I go to do it, it thunders down with rain.
Oh my gosh. It's the one thing I haven't done. I haven't done Skyway. I've done the train many times and I've done the cable car, but I haven't done the cableway, but I have not done the Skyway. So tell me about your leadership stuff. Well, no, actually, I don't want to answer that question. What I want to ask is, I get this sense that Dad has had a great influence on you. What was his leadership style, and how has that influenced you positively or even negatively? I'm not sure if you listen to this, but anyway.
Yeah, interesting. Your dad was quite laissez-faire. He had an experience with his father, which was very when my grandfather was quite autocratic. And so his experience then was quite different to what we'd done. And I've been to university, I've worked other places, and he'd done that as well too. But he did it all himself. From day-to-day management, like giving change out for tills and stuff, to master planning the site. So he did it all. So. That's why I was saying that before, So by the time my sister and I got there, and he'd been doing that for the better part of probably 10 years at that stage, he was pretty tired. And as you would be, because you're effectively doing the job of 6 people, which sounds insane, but that's basically what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And so my sister and I, we did effectively the opposite. We realised, that really to accelerate, you need that team of specialists around you, and that's what we went and did, and so that's why we hired all those people, and that's why we went from we rebuilt the steepest train in the world. We had at that point we were down to about 780,000 visitors, and when we did that, we turned the tide and we accelerated off in the other direction. And went from that number back up to 1.1, the most visitors we'd ever had.
So how would you describe your leadership style?
I don't know. It's not something I ever really thought about. I don't know. I just go and do the stuff. It's easier when you're in a family business, I think, because it means so much to you. And people can see that, and I think that I just try and give everybody, don't micromanage. I give everybody the space to go and do their own stuff, but I set we want to go over here. This is the target, and this is where we need to go. And then I think what I realised a long time ago is as a CEO or as a leader, you just then have to be the ultimate enabler. Okay. Right? So I'm just giving everybody whatever it is they need to be able to do what it is they need to do.
Space, resources,
goals, people,
parameters,
whatever it is. Yeah. So if we want to provide people the best customer experience, what do we need to do that? So it's everything from, I once rearranged the whole way all the buttons worked on the till system at Scenic World because I needed to cut 10 keystrokes out of that system, right? Yeah. So everything from from that level of detail up to all the I've done all the retail training, all that sort of stuff. I've done it all, so then you know what these people need to be able to go and do their jobs the best.
Yeah.
And because, you're trying to make those memories for all those people, get the obstacles out of their way and give them what it is they need to be able to go and do their jobs as best as they can do them. Yeah.
Because there's so many hurdles that you see in so many organisations. You go, it's not serving the customer, it's just serving you, and it's not actually, it's a hurdle for the customer.
You want to just clear, we try really hard, Anthony and I, get rid of all the silos inside your organisation and try really hard to make it so that everybody has what it is they need to go and do the best job that they can.
And is Anthony on the same page with that? If you observe her style, is being any different at all?
She's probably more details focused than me.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm less details focused. I can do it, but I find it hard.
Oh, yeah.
So being an engineer, I think Anthony is a bit more details focused, which is good. That's what you want in your engineers.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we did, and to win Bridgeclimb was the same thing. It was just about enabling these people and getting them the resources and getting ourselves all the resources that we needed to be able to go and get it done. I remember my chairman repeatedly saying to me, David, you now need to pretend that you're already in the next stage. Let's assume that we made it. Don't wait 4 weeks for them to tell you that you're in the next stage.
Yeah.
You need to go and resource yourself right now as if you're already in the next stage. And so I was just running around Sydney, rounding up people, getting them on non-disclosure agreements and non-compete clauses, and getting them into this is what we want to go and do. For some, in a lot of ways, it was easier for me because I wasn't the incumbent, So everybody kind of wants to go, okay, I reckon we can knock these blokes off. Like, that's going to be a bit of fun, isn't it, to go and do that? So in some ways it was an easy sell. Yeah. To be able to go and do that.
Exactly.
So just looking at all the stuff and running all over town. My Opal card was on fire from the number of buses and trains I was catching all over the place to round people up. But we did it and it was fun.
So how did you manage through COVID? Unfortunately, COVID is going to stick around, and I'm trying to take it out of these podcasts a little bit. But I think there's some really interesting stuff in there because COVID has changed the way that we work. It's changed it massively.
Yep.
Therefore, it changes the way we lead and manage people. So what's your experience been with that, especially in your darn industry, my God?
Yeah, so we're very lucky. Our chairman at the start of that, right before that, and our non-executive director is a guy called Gordon Howlett, who had also... He'd worked for Kennards, and he's been around. He's been around a long time.
Yeah.
The advantage of having been around a long time is he's seen stuff that I haven't seen. So remember, I finished school in 1999.
Yep.
So I've been working for the longest period of sustained economic growth in Australian history. I actually remember a recession when I was a little kid, because I could see Paul Keating on the TV,
right?
So I've never really experienced that, right? So I've read about it, I understand what they are, I studied economics at university. Gordon's great. He's like, don't waste a crisis. Never waste a crisis. Always use it to your advantage. So we got into these businesses and we made them as lean and as tough as they can possibly be. And that's what's got us through. So, we're worried about every single dollar that got spent. I remember my sister Anthea saying to me, we need to figure out how to run these businesses like Grandpa did, like on a depression era mentality, right? How do you run it on the smell of an oily rag? Right? So you just go, and we're lucky in that we're very data hungry business for the size that we are. And so we have all this information. So it's then you just go and analyse your stuff and you start pulling out, do you really need this many people to do this? And you just keep challenging your managers to say, nah, you can do it cheaper than that. You can do it cheaper, but not worse. You can maintain that level of service, but you can do it more efficiently, actually is the word I'm looking for.
How did they respond to that? Because I would imagine some people go, too hard. So you've really got to have a level of intelligence to be able to see what you're seeing.
Yeah, that's right. So I wasn't doing so much of that. We did a bit of that. I did a bit of that here. Mostly Deb and Anthea did it, but it was the keep pushing. Like, it's not, you can't just stop when you think you're almost there. Like, there's always one more step that you can go, but you never do anything to compromise. You try not to do anything to compromise the experience. You still want to have people have that fantastic experience, but it needs to be you need to optimize operationally and back a house as much as you can. And when I say it's like, it's safety always has to be the main thing. Like at some points in time, possibly right now, there's 270 people hanging by 6 ropes up in Katoomba. When you think about it like that, and you need them all to get back safely.
I'm not sure you convinced me to get on the Skyway thing, but anyway.
You know what? I once had. I was telling my girlfriend about this the other day, and we were talking about a time that someone told me that I needed to make it cheaper because it was misty and raining outside, and I was like, listen, excuse me, sir, I'm really sorry, but my maintenance team did the same amount of safety checks they did this morning as they do any other day. Whether you can see the view or not, the ride is safe. So if you'd like to come back on a day when we're skimping on safety, which don't exist, I'm happy to charge you less, but otherwise you can go at the price that's on the board.
Now tell me, I'm pretty sure Anthony was involved in a forum group and like a mastermind group. Did you do that as well or not?
I'm in a forum group.
You are in a forum group?
Yeah, I'm in a forum
and
group. And
Anthea was in one, or is this one?
No, Anthea's in one as well, yeah.
So, you guys, I'm just touching back on that thing before where you said it could be lonely, but you had each other. What's it been like coming from different mastermind forum groups, coming back and going, my forum group said, and my forum group said?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because for those that are listening that don't know what these are groups of 10 people gathered together once a month. They share some wins, share some losses, share some concerns, share some challenges. And it is a way of leaders being able to get together and not feel lonely. Yeah,
that's a family business one. There's a CEO Institute as well too. The chairman of our company, he facilitates one of those as well. Yeah, look, forum group has been. I've loved my forum group. And I think Anthea loves hers as well too. It's just another set of people that you can go and talk to. It's it's like I always feel like I'm a bit of the silliest person there. But yeah, you have the great luxury of sitting with some very intelligent people and asking them questions and having all of their brains, help you solve a problem.
How have they changed your thoughts on leadership, if at all? Have they changed your thinking at all? Have they challenged it, I guess?
Yes, it's always interesting to see and hear how other people do things and how other people solve problems, and there's always things that you can learn from all of those situations. So that's been the main part. Interestingly, in my forum group, and while I can't give you any real details about it, is actually it's often the family management and the family leadership and how the family are interacting with the business, and especially the ones that aren't involved in it. So that's where my family worked really hard on that for a really long time, and so we've got the board of directors, but above that we have the family council, where everybody who's in the family, be they and there's as discussed, there's 7 of us, with me and my 4 sisters and my parents, and so all those people that don't work in the business need to be able to interact with the business, and so that family council is governed by a family constitution, and we've had that in place now for, I would think, probably 15 years. I think we've had that, and
I think you were one of the first ones to really do that.
Yeah, that's
been
really
useful.
useful.
Cannons did the same.
Yeah, they have the same.
Very similar.
Yeah, Rory's in my forum group. Yeah.
Rory's in your group? Yeah, right. Okay, I had Cam in mine. So, if you were thinking about leadership models, is there any models that you've kind of gravitated to and you've ended up using or not using, or you've just literally gone, okay, this is what we're doing today?
My sister will tell you I just fly by the seat of my pants most of the time. I never really looked at a leadership model and thought that was, I don't even ever remember looking at one. I just always, just tried to do the best that I could, and like I said, made sure that everybody else was smarter than me. And then you're just enabling those people to do their jobs, and I think that's been one of the great keys for Anthea and me.
So if you were mentoring somebody, what would be some tips that you would give them? Whether they're right or wrong.
You need to be. And as much as I say I'm the silliest person in the room, like I do have 3 university degrees. I'm not unintelligent. I mean, that is a great way to go about doing it. It's when you have a group of people and you want to go and achieve something, you also, whilst you're enabling them, and what I mean you're enabling them in every possible way. So not only are you giving them the resources, but you're finding out what it is about that person that they then want to partake. So what's filling their cup? What's driving them to want to go and do what it is you want to go and do? And
so getting that alignment.
Getting that alignment with people is really important. And I only ever work with people that I like as well. That sounds a bit. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to spend normally 8 hours a day with these people. And when you're trying to win Bridgeclimb, you're spending 10, 12, 14 hours a day hanging out with these people. If you don't like them, it's going to be a horrible experience.
Yeah.
You want it to
both.
be. Yeah, that's right. So I also have always tried to do that. Anytime I've interviewed anybody for a job, and I remember I interviewed Deb, my group CFO, and she's the CEO of Bridgeclimb now. I knew she was going to get the job within 5 minutes of her sitting down at the table, because I'm like, I like you. I've seen your resume. I know you're smart enough.
Yeah.
It's whether am I going to want to hang out with you for 8 hours a day for the next 5 to 10 years? That's what I was looking for, and I knew straight away that.
So you trust your gut a lot, then?
I suppose so. Yeah.
Sounds like it.
I don't. Well, I have no prepared notes here, as you can see. So I do. Yeah, I do operate. Yeah, like that. Some people will call it you trust your gut or whatever else, but yeah, I think you just. I don't know. I'm happy to be presented with the situation and deal with it when I get there.
Yeah, interesting. So we're about to run out of time here. So thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. But a couple of quick questions just to finish off.
Sure.
What's I noticed I'm a runner. I don't do UTA, thank God, but you guys have connected with UTA, and you've also connected with sculptures, and so you have all these things. And am I allowed to say what's happening here tonight? No, I won't. Okay, don't cry. So you've got something happening tonight, which is exciting as well. Who's driving? Tell us a little bit about what's happening in these 3 areas, about people what people can look forward to.
So you got to innovate your experience, right? So we learnt that from the theme park people. So Anthony and I used to go to these big conferences on the other sides of the world, and they have all these theme park people. And what you learn from Disney and Universal and all these people is like building new roller coasters and all these rides and stuff every year is really, really expensive. Events are not nearly so expensive. So whilst you've got your Scenic World, you can't build another scenic railway next to the one you've already got, because the site just simply won't let you do it. So how do you give people a different way of experiencing the site? So we've had, like you said, we've had sculptures at Scenic World, so that engages a different audience. And then coming back very soon, we've got dinosaurs, which are down in the valley, so that's going to do. Anthea's got Gruffalo experience running up there now. So it's giving people different ways to interact with the site. UTA is it's just using our site as a sort of start and finish line. And I have done the 22 kilometre one, and it is very, very hard.
They say the 22k is actually harder. There's the hardest section of the whole lot.
It is, yeah. You go down. I think it's 780 metres, and you go up like 800,
stairs or something.
800 and 810 metres in elevation change. Yeah, and the last bit's up the further stairs. Yeah, which is about 950 odd stairs. Nice. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, I think that's leadership too, by the way. I think we can talk leadership very obviously about managing people and leading people, but I think as a business, leadership is about how do we innovate? How do we do things differently? How do we create? Like we were at Questacon last week.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty blah, because it was pretty much the same that it's been every time you go there. It's not this reinvention. But I think that's leadership too. Any thoughts?
So my sister and I definitely... we wanted to be the employer of choice. We wanted to be the best that we could be, and doing that means that you've got to innovate your product. So if you look at Anthea so we've got Beyond Skyway now. You can walk on the top of the Skyway. You know, my dad, he had the first switching glass floor cable car in the world. Like, my grandfather has the first horizontal cable car in Australia. He has the first revolving restaurant in the Southern Hemisphere. So we come from a family of this mentality of, you can't just stay the same. Your core product can stay the same, and you got to deliver that service really, really well. But then you need to be able to add stuff onto it to enhance people's experience and or give people another reason to come back and see you again. Because you've been on the Scenic Railway, you think, okay, well, I've done that, I don't need to go and do that again. Or I've climbed the bridge, don't need to go and do that again. So even in lockdown, here we've come up with, which we were working on anyway, but so the ultimate climb, which goes all the way to the other side. And then we got approached by Wesley who was the chairman of the, what's that thing in Sydney? I forget it now. So then we ended up with the Burrower Climb. So, which is an Indigenous storytelling climb.
Oh, wow.
So in the middle of lockdown, my sister and I have managed to launch 3 new products.
Brilliant.
Across the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So even during all of that, because you try and desperately to re-engage with the local population, here's a different way to go and do these things.
Yeah. Mate, I appreciate your time. It's Matthew. I think the biggest thing I still see is, whilst you and Anthea, worked together for those 10 years, you're still very, very close and still bounce off each other, and that's to me is part of your great leadership style that you have, that you're prepared to listen to your sister.
Always, yeah. She's smarter than me.
She's a clever girl.
She's very smart, and I feel like I've tried at every opportunity to make sure that she got the push. Like, it can be very easy to do that, but so I've tried really hard to make sure that I just pushed her in front of me at every opportunity, because I'm just a middle-aged white guy at the end of the day. Like, I can do whatever I want, but she needed those accolades, and she got all those things, and I was really happy to see her get all of that stuff. And
she's a great lady.
She is accelerated away with she's got a couple of external board positions now. She's like on the board of the Western Sydney Airport.
Oh, right. Wow.
She's got a bunch of different stuff, and
cool.
I hopefully played a tiny little piece in making sure that she got where she needed to.
Well, hopefully she'll appreciate our accolades that we've given her right now.
Hope so. Yeah.
Mate, thank you so much for your time. It's
My
been
pleasure.
Great to have a chat to you. It's been trying to get this together for a little while, but appreciate it heaps. And good luck at Scenic World, at City Zoo, at Bridgeclimb. You guys are doing amazing stuff.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
My pleasure.